Welcome back to my channel. Why your government doesn't want you to talk about the decline in the economic growth rate. Why no mainstream media talks about the bad and the worsening of the economic condition, the poverty, the job loss, the unemployment, and the broken dreams. Why they always talk about the sensational things but not the real issues which impacts your life. This is what we are going to talk about today. So stay tuned with my point of view. Before we proceed, can I ask the new viewers to click on the subscribe button below so that they can become a part of the community and be the first one to receive this kind of information. Let's start the discussion today with the economic condition in India. So very recently the numbers were out for Q2 of 2020. You would be amazed to see what the numbers are. We talk about a recession, and we all did expect that the economic condition is supposed to go down because of the COVID situation, because there are a lot of limitations on it. But no one imagined that it is going to be that worse. For the month starting from April to June, it's 23.9% contraction. That's almost a quarter of the economy has contracted when the results are out. It's not a good news. And this is not all, because the COVID cases has not reached its peak. It is going up and up. Every day brings up new numbers and it's still worsening. On top of that, if things go like this, 2021 is going to be even a worse year. So while we all are working towards to make it a success and to come out of it, let's not forget that it's not just the 23.9% number that we have to keep in mind, the percentage that we need to keep in mind, but also we need to see why we are what we are today. So let's talk about 23.9%. How worse is that? If you compare that with other countries, with other major economies in the world, China is an exception. The epicenter from where it actually started, they are at 3.1%, which is a positive growth rate, and they're leading the charts. But if you talk about other countries, including India, US, UK, and other countries, we are doing very, very bad. But India, in all comparisons, is right there at the top. Is right at the top along with the US. But even so, if you compare in real terms, India is far worse than US. But today's discussion is not about comparing the growth rates. Today's comparison is why India is at 23.9%. Why not like Russia? Russia is at 8.5%. UK is closer, which is around 20%. Why India was not lower, why the impact was so severe, why it was not at 15%, 12%, 13%, why? Because there were some of the steps taken even prior to the onset of the COVID, which actually triggered this kind of collapse and which is continuing right now. We will continue to talk about this more, but let's talk about what this 23.9% means to a common man, what it means to us. Is it just a number? Today it's 23.9%, tomorrow it may be 25%. Things get brighter, we will be back on track, it will become 15%, 10%, 5%, and we will be doing better. What is this 23.9% means to us? It means that there are over 500 million people working in India. It means less jobs for them. We have millions of students graduating this year and in the coming years, and which graduated last year. It means no job for them. It means less food on our table. It means a situation where social disparity is increasing. Much of the labor force constitutes and that is comprises of the unorganized sector. It's a hell for them. As per the government figures, it's around, in terms of the numbers below poverty line, there are 84 million. It means no food for them. Though the real numbers are much more than that, but it means increasing in the poverty. So this is what it means to us. Okay, in the next section we're going to talk about what are the factors which actually helped, I will not say help, which actually contributed. So what are the factors which actually contributed at such a decline rate? So we'll talk about those. Okay, today we are going to talk more about what are those factors which contributed to such a collapse and which is continuing to impact in a very, very adverse way. We're going to talk about all this now. India is such a complex and such a huge economy and a country that if we just jot down all the points, I think that would not be fair and would not be able to carry on. I may go on for hours and hours and you may drop off. But let me start by talking about the top contributors, the top factors which led to this kind of collapse. The number one is the demonetization. Demonetization in November of 2016 in India was actually a step which was supposed to bring in and convert a lot of black money into the economy, back into the economy as a white money and be useful to all of us. But it came at a point when the economy was really weak. It was really fragile. And on top of that, it was very abrupt. It was not very well planned and organized, which hit the economy in a very bad way. We all know a lot of news, we all know a lot of cases where actually people died because of this. There were a lot of litigations and there were a lot of people talking in for and against. But nevertheless, one cannot deny that it hit the economy real bad at that point of time. It actually negatively impacted the growth rate. It may be good in the long run, but it ended up actually doing more damage than good to the Indian economy. Number two is the goods and services tax, so-called GST, which is supposed to bring in one nation, one tax. It is supposed to be a good thing which is going to actually benefit us in the long run, but till now it's been hitting us really bad because there are a lot of teething issues. It's still cumbersome, it's not very clean. For example, if you have a company which operates in different states, so needs to file returns for all those different states. Okay, so this is really cumbersome, not very, very appealing to the economy and the businesses. So it is actually impacting in a negative way. Number three, because of the COVID case, the government expenditure in combating that has actually gone up. And since the economy is not doing that great, so the increased government spending is actually hitting hard on our growth rate. Number four is the reforms which are being undertaken last year. Even before the COVID came into play, there were steps taken to reform the non-banking financial sector. And there were discussions, if you remember, whether that's a recession or not. So there were a lot of discussions on that. So it is still something which is hurting our economy, and it is going to continue to do so. But in the long run, things will improve on this. Number five, the Make in India initiative was a failure up till now. So the results were not that great to look at. Because of the talks of recession, the demand went down, the consumption also went down, which was not good for the economy. Number six is the growing trade deficit. The global trade has taken a hit. There are disputes between US, EU, UK, and China. It is negatively impacting the global trade. So even the exports for India has gone down and contracted by 60%. That's a huge drop. So increasing trade deficit is also one of the contributors to this worsening situation. Now, if you see some of the factors that we talked about today, started way before COVID. So we cannot blame everything to COVID. Let's be courageous and honest and look at the reasons why we have been hit so hard during these times. Government of India needs to take concrete steps towards it. We as a citizen should also contribute. Now, let's talk about why, with all this happening, mainstream media is not focusing on these things. Let's talk about the credibility issue. Now, mainstream media, most of the channels that we see today, there is a severe deficit of credibility. It has become more of a chit-chat channel. They love to shout rather than having a meaningful dialogue or a meaningful debate. They do mention, but they don't focus, or they don't talk about the differences in opinion. They don't talk about the oppositions. They talk about good things about the government policies without critically evaluating. They create very presentable content with a lot of special effects, but the substance involved in those discussions are very low. Now, another reason is the nexus between the media and the politics. So generally we see that some of the media are actually pro to the government and there are a few which are against. So all the channels don't actually do it honestly. They sometimes always talk about good things and they try to hide which are not so good. So there's always a bias which creeps in, and the nexus is definitely which is there, and it's difficult to combat that. Now, many channels are actually owned by the big corporates, so they ensure that what needs to be heard. It's become more of a propaganda machines. So the government and the big corporates ensure that what's discussed in the mainstream media is something which would benefit them, not you, my friend. When you watch channel, you see more of ads than news. Much of the time you're just looking at the ads one after another. They also give you a countdown by when you're going to have the news. You see news for a couple of minutes, then ads back. It's not the ads coming in between news. It's the news which are now coming in between ads. Sadly, it's true. Everything has to be sensational. If it's not sensational, it's not news. If there's any topic which is boring, it's not to be taken. That's what the mainstream media thinks. That's what they do. It always works on the TRP. It does not work on their fundamental duty of actually coming out with things which really matters. Those are some of the challenges that we talked about today. That's why we don't see news nowadays in the mainstream media, but more of chit-chat things which doesn't benefit any one of us. With this, let's talk about my point of view. Now, in today's my point of view, I don't have very positive reviews or positive ideas about how they should do and they shouldn't do. No suggestions on that, because this is something which is not only in India, it is across the world. But what can, and I think can make a difference, is you. All you have to do is do what is right. Do your work honestly. Try to do things which helps in nation building. Try to take steps which is good for your family, which not only makes you prosper, your family prosper, but also your nation prosper. So let's start doing these things by, let's ourselves be honestly doing our work so the nation would be able to do better. I have nothing else to comment on this. So with this, thank you for watching so far. With this, we come to the end of this video. Please remember to subscribe the channel if you have not done so far, to be part of the community, and please comment so that I can respond to you personally. Thank you and stay safe. See you.